You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There is a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for May 12th, 2023. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where Cornfield Resistance team coverage of the CNN town hall was delayed due to the fact that neither of us had any intention of watching that shit show live. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, we've seen clips. We know what went on. We're not being derelict. It's just, ugh.
That really is a good reaction.
God.
Really?
And when you see the mile-long, mile-wide turd coming at you from space, and you could avoid it so easily, and we're just going to let it hit. Like, okay, we're doing this again. Oh, okay, great. That's great. Anyway, we have breaking news about another shit show.
Another
on Twitter.
shit show.
Yeah. You want to talk about Twitter for a half second? This
just a
happened.
Half second, because we just opened our email. I opened my email before we came on.
Mm-hmm.
And Elon Musk is stepping down as CEO of Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have, he said she.
Uh-huh.
So I assume it's going to be either Kimberly Guilfoyle or you said Caitlyn Jenner.
Caitlyn Jenner, a real
disruptor. Going to be running Twitter in 2 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever.
It, with her eyes closed, which is how she conducts most of her business. Yeah.
Anyway, we don't know anything more than that he stepped down. I did hear from one of my colleagues at Crooks and Liars that apparently Tesla investors said enough of this and get back to running Tesla.
Yeah.
Or else.
Or Daddy Spank.
Yeah.
Oh, money. Oh, now we're talking about money.
We're talking about money.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Could I keep playing with it on the weekends? It does remind me of a little bit of what is it? The Squire of Gothos Star Trek episode where this all-powerful, omnipotent being is tormenting the crew and hunts for Kirk, and in the end, it's just a spoiled child. And in the end, his parents come for him, and he says, "I want to play longer. I don't want to go home. I don't want to go in." And Mom and Dad, now, Junior, it's time for you to go in. You've been tormenting your toys, and it really is this giant, rich man baby with the biggest fucking ego who's swallowed every right-wing conspiracy theory, which is why people like that should never be in charge of shit. Capitalism sucks. I mean, at that level, if you can literally buy the single most used communication platform on earth and turn it into a sewer because you're mad at somebody, no, there's something horribly, horribly wrong there. But you know what? Who knows? Well,
and perhaps the new CEO will be alert to, again, money and the likelihood of being sued by someone who gets murdered or something bad happens because you've let someone with Hitler tattoos all over your body do bad things because of something that was on your platform and you did nothing about it. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But
I think Elon broke it beyond repair at this point.
You said that. You said that when I read that to you, like it's too late.
Yeah. You killed it. Man.
It's too late.
You can push the corpse around all you want and pretend it's still got juice in it. But Elon Musk really, really gutted Twitter. And just in every way that an incompetent, spoiled asshole can screw things up. And that he can walk away from now. Well, I'm done playing with that.
I'm done. I'll go do something else because my shareholders in my other company are mad at me. Yeah.
There is an asshole who cannot walk away from his deeds. And
but I want to talk about the cover-up before we talk about the crime.
Okay.
Republicans in the House of Representatives, which is the only place they have any power, are scrambling to provide a cover-up for Trump. And it's not just the E. Jean Carroll, disaster where if he just kept his mouth shut, he wouldn't have to pay her $5 million. He would not have had to go to court with his attorney. This is also just covering for Trump about everything else. And I got to say, James Comer, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, is really bad at this.
Yes.
His committee has subpoena power. Believe it or not, they actually have subpoena power. And they also have a never-ending warm seat on Fox for him to come on. And he can't put it together because he doesn't have this stupid thing called evidence. Now, that never stopped Jim Jordan. You know, Jim Jordan found a way around that, but James Comer doesn't seem to be able to do it. And so the New York Times headline, I believe from today, said Republicans found no wrongdoing with Joe Biden after 4 months of investigation. You know, with Benghazi, they just went for 11 months, 2 years, whatever.
Yeah, keep digging. Keep going. We have to get to the bottom of what blah, blah, blah. Well, can I just say that the greatest success they ever had with this is Bill Clinton. They had a special prosecutor who said, there's nothing here. There's nothing here. Mm-hmm. And then they turned to Ken Starr, gave him an infinite amount of money and power and said, dig till you find something. Shake every tree. The goal is not, to justice. The goal is not righteousness. The goal is destroy Bill Clinton at any cost.
Smear him. Yep.
Yeah, smear him at any cost. And they found it. They found he cheated on his wife. Yep.
Yeah.
And they used that to impeach him. And he lied about it. And they used that to impeach him. So this has always been their way. This is the way. And
this is their way.
Yep.
So James Comer went on Maria Bartiromo's show because that's where you would go for pro-Trump stuff, right? Mm-hmm. He begged the White House press corps to ask Biden about this no evidence investigation. Asking the White House press corps to do your job for you. And a reminder, this is important. I've said this many times on this podcast, I believe. Mm-hmm. Hunter Biden cooperated with the FBI and the IRS. Yeah. He did.
Already.
And so there's nothing for the Republicans to go after because the investigation has happened. And maybe Hunter's going to get a gun charge and maybe he's going to get a tax charge. But I'm kind of doubting it on the tax charge because the IRS usually doesn't charge people who have paid their back taxes already.
I know. They just want the money.
They want the money. They use the possibility of going to jail as an enforcement mechanism. That's what it's for.
Right.
And then people pay up, hopefully, or they go to jail. But if you've already paid up, it's a waste of resources to put somebody in jail if they paid. The point is to get them to pay. So this morning, even Steve Doocy wondered aloud to Comer what evidence he had. And the look on Comer's face was like,
what?
Why are you asking me hard questions?
Gotcha questions. These gotcha questions on Fox.
Fox has gone woke. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now, of course, Hunter Biden is suing the computer repair guy.
Yeah.
And going on offense. Fox News knows not to push that bullshit too hard. What they don't need right now is a settlement with Hunter Biden.
I don't know. I could use it. I think that would be glorious.
That would be lovely.
But
the idea that Hunter Biden might sue them for defamation as a private citizen.
Well, that's great news for Newsmax, isn't it? I mean, every time Fox, steps on their own dick to the tune of $787 million, or they fire Tucker Carlson, Newsmax doubles their viewership. I mean, that these people aren't going back to church or going back to school or just shutting the fuck up and getting out of the opinion business. They're finding someone who will feed their addiction.
They're finding another dealer. Exactly.
Yeah, another dealer. And they don't care if it's, peanut butter and Drano shooting into their veins, as long as it's something that makes them feel alive. Mm-hmm. Now, James Comer's plan was to have the Biden bombshell press conference the morning after the E.G. and Carroll verdict. Timing is everything. This would give Fox something to put on the screen other than, 2021 Mexican border footage over and over and over again.
That's what they've been doing, too.
Oopsie. Oops. Instead, that presser immediately followed the George Santos arrest and Kevin McCarthy's announcement that I can't comment on the Santos thing. I was busy issuing debt ceiling hostage demands. That clown show. So, oopsie, they got everything wrong. And Comer works for McCarthy, sort of. It's not like this. These are all separate people doing separate things. Santos is one of McCarthy's guys. They're all, it is a clown car, and they're all falling out of it, and they're all drunk. And Democrats, particularly Joe Biden, have learned from the Obama years. is our Democrats learning? I think they kind of are.
Yeah, I think they kind of are.
They have evolved to the point where they are figuring out how to deal with Neanderthal Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
You call them out. You call them weirdos. You call them wackos. You call them liars. You look puzzled as to who in their right mind could possibly believe this shit. And you refer, in Joe Biden's case, to MAGA Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
Or when a reporter asks you about the deal, are you negotiating? Joe Biden just says, what deal are you talking about? Well, the one where, I don't know, did Kevin McCarthy tell you what the details were? He didn't tell me. And he's very clear from the podium or from the stage that I'm not trying to be obnoxious. I'm asking, do you know what the details are? Well, they're in the bill. No, they're not. There's nothing in the bill. And he really has figured out reporters need to be pushed back against in a way that, do you understand what you're talking about? And oftentimes they don't. They're just repeating Republican talking points.
Exactly.
And Republicans need to be called out for what they are. It's not a lie if they really are racist scumbags, which they clearly are. And they seem to be figuring that out.
Yeah, I think Biden especially calling out the reporter who was simply, saying, Republicans will tell you that. Will you please comment on what Kevin McCarthy's comms person put into my hand instead of what was actually passed by the House of Representatives? And what's passed by the House of Representatives is something that Biden has read and knows where the cuts are. And his comms team is calling that out. It is cuts to veterans programs.
Well, and that's why I think Comer's strategy of asking the White House press corps to be all tricky. So, President Biden, wouldn't you agree that you're a criminal and you covering it up? I mean, wouldn't you? We'll trick him into admitting this vast crime that he never committed. Which no, I would. And they're all dumb. And they're all complicit, and now it's kind of fallen apart. Not to say they won't succeed in the long run, because they have got millions of people on their side. But it appears some people are figuring some things out in time to at least make us some content for this podcast.
I did not have sex with that budget.
No.
Right? No, they're not going to get that clip from Joe Biden. Sorry. And even Jim Jordan, who, I praised earlier as being smarter than James Comer.
Yeah, well,
He's had a lot more practice at rat fucking, pretty much. Yeah. But even he's having problems. He's trying to bullshit his way past a 2020 letter from U.S. intelligence officials, which noted that the Hunter Biden laptop, and there is no laptop, but this whole idea of the Hunter Biden laptop and hard drives and so forth was likely a Russian intelligence operation.
Yeah.
And Jordan is screaming, yeah, but some of the data on that server has since been verified. So,
yeah. Okay,
hey,
so
Jim,
what?
Hey, Jim, guess what? Some of the files and emails have been verified by Hunter Biden.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hunter Biden cooperated with the FBI and went in and looked at all of the emails and all of the files and told the federal authorities, yes, that's my email. Yes, that's not my email. I didn't do that. That's not my photo, etc. Testified before the FBI and gave them information. By the way, if you ever have to do that, folks, if you ever have to go have a sit down with the FBI, you are presumed to be under oath. If you lie to the FBI in your living room, that's a crime.
Yes, it is.
Okay? And that's why my ex-husband, the, libertarian attorney, would always advise his students, don't talk to the FBI because they have you. And if you make a false statement to them, you're sunk. You're just sunk. And that was his, I don't agree with that. But if you cooperate, you better be telling the truth and you better know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because that's it. And so it's just not a good flex for Jim Jordan to scream about, all this stuff's been verified now. Yeah, we know who verified it. Hunter Biden did. And so a lawyer, this brings it up to this week's news, a lawyer representing some of those 2020 intelligence officers who signed that original letter noted in the New York Times this week, quote, I know of no signatory to that letter who retracts a single word.
Yeah.
It's still Russian ops.
Yeah.
Just because there's stuff on there that Hunter Biden says, yeah, that's my email. Well, of course it is. That's how Russian ops make it look like it's legit.
And how many years was that image of a hard drive. There is no laptop sitting in Rudy Giuliani's trunk or whatever.
Apartment or whatever.
The chain of custody.
And where did he get it?
Yeah.
He got it from Russians in Ukraine who want to be back in power in Ukraine.
The chain of custody on that would be laughed out of any court in the country, which is why it's only a big deal in Jim Jordan's little playpen. And there is a rule in politics, and everyone knows this rule in politics. It goes all the way back to Nixon. It's not the crime, it's the cover-up. It's the cover-up that got Nixon out of the White House. But a more important rule is if the person you're trying to smear has already cooperated with the FBI, if there is literally no cover-up, then you damn well better have B-roll of Mexican border footage sitting right there because you're going to need it. And they do.
And they do.
And that's
over
all
and
they
over
have.
and over again.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to bring out some more Mexican border footage.
Oh, wait a minute. How come I'm seeing like 1970 Corvettes in this? Oh, that's... oh, never mind. Yeah.
They literally did that. I looked at it. It had... in the upper corner, for some reason, it had a timestamp on it on Fox Daytime, 2021. They're showing border footage from 2021.
It doesn't matter. Their audience doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Okay, so we're going to get to the Trump town hall, and let's start with the fact that Donald Trump repeatedly incriminated himself.
Yeah, very obliging of him, really.
Go on TV and start making the exact same mistakes that only this week cost you $5 million, Donnie. He defamed E. Jean Carroll again. Hours before the town hall, of course, Trump was on Truth Social explaining, CNN is rightfully desperate to get those fantastic Trump ratings. Then Trump went into the town hall. Like I said, he defamed E. Jean Carroll again. And then he gave Fani Willis a huge early Mother's Day present with bright pink bow on it.
Yeah.
He announced that Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger owes me votes.
That son of a bitch still owes me votes. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Donnie. Thanks. Did everybody all the cameras get that?
Fannie Willis, she had, do you have a pen? Does anybody have a pen? I need to write that down. Timestamp. And then Greg Bluestein of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution suggested, quote, experts say those remarks could land him in more legal hot water.
Yeah. Sorry. We're all out of hot water. It's all used up. All the pressure is gone. We'll have to wait for the tank to refill and reheat because just, Now, before the town hall, remember, this is CNN's folly. Everyone knew it would be a shit show. Everybody knew this was going to be bad. And everyone predicted it. And by God, it was. Before the town hall, CNN was reporting on, quote, signs that Trump is adopting a more traditional campaign in his third run to the White House, a strategy of expanding his appeal. Sure, that's definitely what he's doing. Also, we here at the Professional Left are very excited that we have been invited to appear on CNN.
We have?
Yeah, we have. Just sit down, calm down. I'll let you know when the actual invitation comes, but we assume that we've been invited because, after all, David Zaslav, who is the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, the company that owns CNN, defended CNN's decision to host Trump by announcing all voices should be heard on CNN. And you know what? We are voices. You and I are voices. I can hear my voice. I hear your voice. So we're clearly going to be invited at some point in the future to appear on CNN. And, thank you, David Zaslav. We really appreciate that.
Well, and if I was on CNN it would be from my house.
Yeah.
The only thing I want to talk about is that son of a bitch Trump telling Brad Raffensperger that he owes me votes.
Well, our friend Steve, when we floated this idea on the social media, he said he would watch RNCNN just for that. And I told him it would be the spiciest 90 seconds in cable news history.
Spicy.
And then the big technical difficulties sign would go up, and we would suddenly be back in the cornfield, and no one would ever be the wiser. But we've already been on this.
We've been on CNN.
We've been on the Ed Sullivan Show.
We've been on the Ed Sullivan Show. Mick Jagger. Anyway. That's right. No, not Mick Jagger. I'm sorry. No, it was the Doors, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I'm so sorry. It's the Doors that,
The four people who know that are really mad at you now.
I know. They're really mad at me. Correction. I corrected myself in time.
In real time, which is better than Caitlyn Jenner did. I'll be...
We're having a lot of fun here today, folks. Mark Lukasiewicz said this week, the predictably disastrous CNN town hall was indeed disastrous, proving again, live lying works. A friendly MAGA crowd consistently laughs, claps at Trump's punchlines, including sex assault and January 6th. And the moderator cannot begin to keep up with the AR-15 pace of lies. And who is Mark Lukasiewicz? He's a former senior vice president at NBC News.
Yeah.
You mean the one that has Morning Joe that had Trump on as a phone-in?
Yeah.
All the time?
Yeah. Well, he's a former senior. They all get very talky when they're former senior vice president.
Former, yeah.
But this is a guy who's a senior vice president at NBC News. He knows what he's talking about, and he knows this would never work. Now, for more, we turn to Peter Baker. Quote, props to Caitlin Collins, who was in an impossible position, but did a heroic job of fact-checking Trump throughout the town hall. No easy task, given how many factually untrue things, meaning lies, he said in such a short time. Collins was a true pro and showed what a stellar journalist she is, unquote. This is Peter Baker reminding her that when she is gifted her own television show by CNN for doing Chris Licht's bidding of putting this abomination on the air, she should definitely have Peter Baker on many, many times as a guest.
To promote his book. Yep. To promote his book about what Trump did behind the scenes, right? Yeah, yeah. Driftglass was very nice. He put in our notes, I get to quote, paste eater Chris Licht. Thank you, Driftglass.
You're most welcome.
I absolutely unequivocally believe America was served very well by what we did last night to serve America.
Yeah. It's a cookbook.
It's a cookbook.
It's a cookbook, people. Again, 7 people out there will get it, but they'll, I hope, get a kick out of it. Now, I was not being generous with Blue Gal because I wanted the next piece here.
I'm sorry, you traded. It was a trade-off.
It was.
Chris Licht for Matthew Dowd, huh?
For Matthew Dowd. For still more, we turn to Matthew Dowd, who some of you might know because I say it every now and then, blocks me and literally everyone else who's ever brought up his past. So I had to have this smuggled to me by various devious routes, but it's here. This is Matthew Dowd on the social media. Quote, okay, I watched as much as I could. CNN was completely unprepared to hold Trump accountable. Yeah, make a note of that importance of accountability that Matthew Dowd is talking about. CNN has done a complete disservice to our democracy. I withheld judgment on this until I saw it. CNN, you failed journalism and our country, unquote. And then he follows up with, Lordy, why are the Trump folks like Stephen Miller thanking CNN for this? It was awful. No accountability. Just let that sit in your mind for a moment. Now, Musket's Joe Walsh, Crazy Joe Walsh, responded on the Twitter, respectfully disagree. He's going to be the Republican Party nominee. CNN is simply letting him reveal himself in all his unfitness to the American people. Because, we didn't know that before. And you know who watches CNN? The entire American people. That's who watched CNN. So, now Trump's in trouble. Now, Matthew Dowd responded also on the social media, which again had to be smuggled to me. Quote, Joe, I guarantee you this. His numbers will rise after this. And what you are saying is what media said in 2016 about not holding him accountable. CNN just helped in the continued destruction of our democracy, unquote. Now,
who is the media?
I want you to pause for a moment and remind yourself that Matthew Dowd in 2016 was ABC News chief political analyst. He was the king of both sides do it. And now Matthew Dowd in 2023 is bitching about 2016 media as if he wasn't there.
Yeah.
And about not holding Trump accountable. This is a guy who deleted his entire Twitter account and blocks anyone who mentions his past, wagging his finger about holding people accountable for their past deeds. Fuck you, Matthew Dowd. Also, of note is the fact that Joe Walsh leaping to the defense all day today of CNN. Let's remind ourselves that one of the very few meal tickets Joe Walsh has left is being paid by CNN to go on their air. So
usually on holiday weekends when no one else wants to be on too. Yeah.
He's always, I'll be on so-and-so show on CNN. Yeah, because you're just about the only place that'll put you on the air anymore is CNN. So, of course, David Axelrod is defending CNN. Guess who David Axelrod works for? All of CNN's hangers-on and employees and contract people were lined up today to say what a great job CNN did.
Yeah, sure.
Tells you exactly how debased they all are as actual journalists.
Okay, so we have some local news of national interest.
Yes, we do. Mm-hmm.
This is news we told you about a few weeks ago, and it's now, the event has come and gone. But we're taking this from the Facebook page of a local Republican.
Yes, a prominent local Republican.
Prominent local Republican. The area Lincoln Day dinners are an annual fundraising event held by most counties. Some have Reagan Day events, but it really depends on the time of year and focus. Last night, my wife and I attended the Sangamon County Lincoln Day dinner, which had 980 in attendance. The guest speaker was Kellyanne Conway, who spoke on how she cooked the books for Harlan Crow and Ginny Thomas. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. That's not what he said.
I think you've exaggerated there, Blue Gal.
I don't know. He didn't say that. He said, the guest speaker was Kellyanne Conway, who talked about many of the issues we face as Republicans today.
Such as pedophilia and lying and treason, right? Right? No.
Last week, my wife and I attended the LaSalle County Lincoln Day dinner, where U.S. Representative Darren LaHood spoke on the goings-on in Washington, D.C., and had an inspiring talk on the importance of Ronald Reagan to this state. Both counties do a great job of bringing Republicans together in fellowship and fundraising. Now, it's on to the sold-out Tazewell County Illinois Republican Party / Peoria County Republican Party Lincoln Day dinner, featuring guest speaker Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. That one's sold out, Drift Class.
Oh, damn it. I always act too late on these things. You know, I'm always just a day late and a couple of $100 short, and I have no interest whatsoever.
Yeah, $150 a seat was with Kellyanne Conway. That didn't include photos with her or anything.
Well, and just as a brief reminder, this is not a one-off.
No.
Last year, it was Charlie Kirk who was at our Lincoln Day dinner. The year before that, it was Candace Owens. Before that, I believe it was Corey Lewandowski.
Yep.
They hire for $30,000 or $35,000 a piece these absolutely horrible, monstrous scumbags to come and speak to 1,000 loyal Republicans for $150 a head to do fundraising for the local Republican Party. So please, this is representative of Illinois Republicans. This is how it is here.
They all sat there and listened to Kellyanne Conway and clapped for her. They did.
These people are, 2 pews down from us in church. They're behind us in line. We see them every day. So please don't lecture us about not understanding the Republican Party as it actually exists in the real world. We damn well do. We damn well tell you the truth about it. And a lot of people out there do not want to hear from a bunch of liberals calling out Republicans for what they really are, because that's just not fair. They don't want to hear the fact that we know who you are, and we've been warning about this for decades. Instead, we have to rely on people who suddenly discover the Republican Party is full of bullshit, like Joe Walsh of CNN and Matthew Dowd of MSNBC.
Joe Walsh, who was one of the Tazewell County Republicans, going to those kind of dinners and functions. He knows goddamn well what Illinois Republicans are like.
Sure he does.
He knows that. He was one.
Yeah, but it's important that liberals not have a voice in this conversation because we'll start bringing up stuff that they don't want to remember. So it's important that we not have it.
You mean like the corrupt duopoly, Drift Class?
I will mention that once or twice next time Matthew Dowd and I are out for coffee. FYI,
Matthew Dowd's corrupt duopoly. Yes.
Speaking of people who really should be on CNN or MSNBC or some cable outlet, because he does a public service every day. Hal Sparks. Hal Sparks is how we got the, at least I got the town hall, because he was watching it and commenting on it like he does with a lot of Republican speeches, a lot of rallies. He does an excellent job of breaking things down and talking about it. And he got bounced off of Twitch last night for streaming this CNN abomination from a third party and then commenting on it. By the end of his podcast, is like a bunch of people are on YouTube going, "You just disappeared from Twitch. You're just gone from Twitch." I don't know if it's a one-day thing or for the rest of his life. As someone who spent 9 months in Twitter jail, let me tell you, Hal, it's not for babies. But
it's hard time, huh?
It's hard, but here's something that Hal Sparks mentioned, and I think this is there's a lot of wisdom in this for us DIYers, which is He said, this is why I'm on a lot of different platforms.
Yep.
Because if you're dedicated to one platform, they can take that away from you, and then you've got nothing. So he's on all kinds of different platforms all the time, and I don't know how he does it, or where he gets the energy to do it, or how he keeps up with events. But this is someone who really, really, the country would benefit seeing this sort of person.
And he's a celebrity.
Yeah. Well,
it's not like CNN can say, well, we only have celebrities on. We don't have local podcasters on. But he is a celebrity.
Put him on opposite someone you really want to, contend with. Let him moderate a debate. There are lots of liberal voices out there who do a great job. And they just don't want people there who's bringing up shit that happened before 2015.
Yeah.
Because it makes everyone else there who was complicit in all that stuff look like criminals, which they kind of are.
I was just floored by the horrible Axios take of the week. I get and 10 Grain often comments about this at Mock Paper Scissors. The Axios, he calls it the newsletter thingy. It's their email. And in this Axios email this week, a white man, obviously male, wrote, quote, "The Me Too movement seems like a long ago moment in history, but its legacy lives on in law and culture." And he didn't say it lives on in the decimated careers of Mark Halperin, Charlie Rose, Kimberly Guilfoyle, and Bill O'Reilly, and so many others.
And so many others. So many, many others.
And I've got more. Texas Republican hates drag queens, likes sex with drunk interns. Allegedly.
Allegedly. Very important we put allegedly around all of that.
This is Brian Slayton, who resigned this week before he was expelled from the Texas House. They were going to expel him because of decorum, Driftglass. Mm-hmm. They had to protect their decorum. I'm not making that up. A 19-year-old intern who bought Plan B contraception the day after she was hanging out at the condo of Brian Slayton. Her girlfriend said she was a virgin before that day. And Brian Slayton used his family's financial services company email to allegedly engage in witness intimidation regarding the affair.
Uh-huh.
He's in his 40s. The intern is 19. Also, the 16-page report that was put together
wow,
for his expulsion, 16 pages, mentioned the word numerous rum and cokes.
Uh-huh. That's
so allegedly he got her drunk, had unprotected sex with her, then used his email to threaten anybody who had heard from her about it. And she was at the pharmacy getting Plan B contraception. I don't know whether he told her to do that or not, but he's no longer with the Texas legislature. And it's not clear whether he's still working for his family's financial services company. I guess it depends if they have a policy against using work email for witness intimidation.
Texas Republican values, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Family values. Just keep it off the front page. It's days like this that I miss Molly Ivins.
Oh, absolutely. She would have fun with this one.
But she, of the pithy quote and the deep, deep understanding of Texas politics, it's people like that are missing from our chorus, and I miss her deeply, and I miss that kind of voice deeply. Finally, I would like to point out that the reason all of this crap happens is because of both-siderism has been a plague on this country for decades and has been allowed to run wild, and it has created the careers and created the media corporations that have enabled all this nonsense, that refuses to hold people in check, that demands that every story be bisected between Democrats and Republicans. They're both equally to blame. And I, at this point, do not think that can be stopped or contained. I think we're stuck with it for the foreseeable future. After a whole bunch of things, after Trump and after Trump again, and after his impeachment that didn't happen and it wasn't removed and blah, 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 and after January 6th, it's clear now that the media in this country, political media, is unsalvageably broken. There's nothing to be done about it. They're just going to keep doing this shit forever and ever. The lesson they learn is the more car wrecks we put on television, the more viewers we get. And that's all they really care about. So this is from friend of the pod, who's been on this podcast, Jay Rosen. This is from yesterday. And he's citing something from NPR. And this is Jay Rosen talking in this clip. An update on the debt limit. You can hear not only a museum quality default to both sides' mindlessness, but the sound of a news organization, NPR, utterly confounded by its subject, helpless and paralyzed, unable to think, unwilling to try, unquote. And then it goes on in another piece further down the thread, quote, it's so surreal. They're still doing, quote, when will those squabbling politicians put aside partisanship and compromise for the greater good? After all this, meanwhile, orders to start shooting the hostages are going out, unquote. He is very reliable, Jay Rosen is, on this nonsense, and he has a much more impressive academic pedigree than I do, and I do appreciate the fact that he's all over it. But the thing that depressed me was, not that I'm not depressed all the time, but the thing that especially depressed me about this was I suddenly flashed back to a post I wrote 16 years ago featuring Alan Simpson and George Mitchell, who were on NPR talking about how bad things were getting. And I'm going to read a little bit of that now, and I'll let you draw your own conclusion. But you know what? After 16 years of this, after 18 years of this, since it was going on long before that, you know, I don't see any way to end this. I don't see any way to this can be stopped. This is from 16 years ago, NPR. This is me quoting myself. First of all, Simpson said a bunch of good things about Congress did nothing and the new arrangement, blah, blah, blah. And it's tragic that Harry Reid is the Democratic leader and is yet to be invited to the White House, et cetera, et cetera. And this is Simpson. And some of these are direct quotes, but some of them are as approximate as I could because I recall I was in my car driving someplace and I pulled over and started taking notes because it was so embarrassing. When it comes to partisanship, ideological fanaticism, and the vicious depths to which they will gleefully sink and to demonize their opponents by any measure, the Republican Party is far, far worse than Democrats. This is me. So why is partisanship getting worse in the Senate? This is George Mitchell. Because if you're getting more people elected to the Senate from the House, and they bring the mores and tradition of the House with them, and then Simpson, bless his heart, I agree, George, totally, I can name names. I watched the venom come from the House, and you damn well know they're talking about Newt Gingrich and Gingrich and his people. You goddamn well know. And now, then this caller named Isabel from New Jersey chimed in, and the bullshit got rolling. Isabel says, I think the problem right now is not so much between Republicans and Democrats as it is with those with an ideological approach to politics and those with a pragmatic approach. It's like, I think it was David Brooks in Address, I'm pretty sure, because, and then she goes on. So when you have people like Alan Simpson or Christine Todd Whitman who have more pragmatic approaches to politics, they can discuss issues with Democrats. Whereas when you have a very ideological person like President Bush or Sam Brownback, it is more difficult to come to a compromise because their ideology is based on ideology, not on reality. And then completely unprompted, during all this discussion of how the Republican Party sucks, our host, Neil Conan, who still has a job at NPR, jumps in completely unprompted with this. I would suspect, to be fair, that there are at least a few Democrats who have an ideology of their own, too. Okay, thanks for being a helper there, Neil. Let's just bring the Democrats into this. To which the caller replies, yes, I agree. I just couldn't think of one, though.
Oh, my gosh.
And it really is at that point you go, oh. And as I wrote at the time, to the discerning ear, you can hear the penny drop, the to be fair.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah.
And this is me talking 16 years ago, whenever explicitly Republican high crime scandals, lies, or treason are under discussion, something very bad will happen to me if I don't automatically and doctrinally butt in with no evidence whatsoever and assert that somehow Democrats are equally bad.
It really is like someone from NPR management walked over and plugged in his electric chair.
Yeah.
Or and now you will say both sides. You will both sides this, or I'm going to zap you.
It's or they have a little explosive device implanted in their skull.
Yeah.
You know, got to repeat, both sides do it, or the bomb goes off.
I'm sure there is a Democratic equivalent to Newt Gingrich.
Sure. You know, to be fair.
16 years ago.
Can't think of who it might be, but I'm sure they're out there. And and it's just that kind of, and it wasn't prompted by anything. It's just like, oh my God, we're talking about Republicans. I'm going to get so railed at the editorial meeting after this if I don't mention Democrats too. And at that point, I was like, Jesus Christ. And you know what? 16 years later, I can't add anything to that.
And they're not allowed to talk about abortion or guns and mention Republicans in the same sentence.
No. You know what? To make us feel better, Blue Gal, why don't we do a news roundup?
Let's do a news roundup, Drift Glass. The Bidening continues.
That's always cheerful. Let's go.
Yeah. A jury made up of 6 men and 3 women unanimously found Trump liable for the sexual abuse, battery, and defamation of E. Jean Carroll, awarding her $5 million in damages.
A judge barred Trump from publicly posting evidence and other material related to the pending criminal hush money case, a different case altogether. Judge Juan Merchan also barred Trump from reviewing evidence in the case other than in the presence of his lawyers, because he can't be trusted, and, quote, shall not be permitted to copy, photograph, transcribe, or otherwise independently possess the limited dissemination materials.
News from across the river in the People's Republic of Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri. Yeah.
In Missouri. St. Louis's elected and first Black woman prosecutor Kim Gardner will resign from office on June 1st after Missouri Republicans said that if she didn't, they would pass a bill giving the state control of the city of St. Louis.
Yeah, that's how
Think
bad.
About how evil that is.
Yeah. Well, and they have the majority. They're just doing what they want to do. At least 8 electors in Georgia have accepted an immunity deal from Fulton County DA Fani Willis, promising that they will truthfully testify about Trump's efforts to overturn the Georgia presidential election in 2020. Fani Willis is not playing around. Things are getting real fast.
Yeah, and Brad Raffensperger owes him votes, Drift Glass. We found that out last night.
You owe me votes, man.
Congressman George Santos has been criminally charged by federal prosecutors in New York's Eastern District. He pleaded not guilty to 13 federal criminal charges. Santos, who was released on a $500,000 bond, and no one knows where that money came from.
Nope.
Faces 7 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of money laundering, 2 counts of making false statements to Congress, and 1 count of defrauding campaign donors to purchase designer clothes, make car payment, and pay personal credit card bills.
Yeah.
I don't know how he isn't allowed to get away with that, because Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert have both spent campaign money on personal expenses.
It might be the wire fraud and the icing on the cake might be the personal thing, but it's the money laundering and the wire fraud and the false statements. And as I believe Keith Olbermann pointed out this morning on his show, they're pulling him down for things we didn't even know about.
Yeah, that's amazing.
This is all crap we didn't know about. Imagine how much more there is to the George Santos corruption iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
New Hampshire guarantees interracial marriage rights in state law with new Marital Freedom Act. This is from New Hampshire Public Radio. The right to interracial marriage is now enshrined in New Hampshire state law. While interracial marriages have been legal in the United States since 1967, Loving versus Virginia U.S. Supreme Court case, the sponsor of the bill protecting such unions in New Hampshire said the court's reversal of federal abortion rights last year raised concerns about similar rulings around marriage equality. Quote, it's hard to explain to people who aren't in interracial marriages themselves, like I am, what it means to live in a world where there is the possibility that your marriage could be invalidated, said Representative Ben Ming, a Democrat from Hollis.
And nothing about gay marriage in that bill, I take it.
I don't know. Didn't read the bill, but wouldn't surprise me if that's the next thing up.
Yeah. Kelly Craft, a Republican candidate for Kentucky governor, said if she's elected, we will not have transgenders in our school system.
Oh, yeah. She's a real piece of work.
Wow.
Speaking of pieces of work, Joe Manchin, ever heard of him, threatened to vote against all Biden's EPA nominees unless the administration rescinded new carbon emission standards for power plants. Old King Cole strikes again.
Mike Pence doesn't think voters will care about the Trump sex abuse verdict. Which voters is he talking about? I think we know. The ones that said hang Mike Pence?
Yeah.
Yeah, they won't care. You're right. They won't care.
You're right, Mike. They have other things on their mind there, Mike. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whose brain is broken, claims SSRIs are the cause of mass shootings.
That's just a sad state of affairs. That's all that is.
He's gone. He's gone by, and he's being exploited, and he's on Fox News, and they love him over there because even liberal Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says, and as long as they can use him and cast him aside, they will, and he's willing to go along with that, which is tragic.
Eric Trump, the smart one, had a humiliating meltdown after MSNBC host Rachel Maddow correctly pointed out that Eric and his wife Laura are speaking at an event in Miami this weekend with known anti-Semites. Eric ranted that Maddow is walking a fine line, and if she or anyone else dares, ... Yeah. She's got receipts of who you spoke to and who they are.
Yeah.
That's all she said.
Yeah. You'd better let that threat hang in the air, Eric, because if you make it explicit, you're going to end up in court next to your daddy.
Yep.
The day after the Trump shit show, MSNBC had brand new MSNBC employee John Kasich on to explain that both sides are reckless spenders and the Republican voters are unhappy with Trump, just like Democrats are unhappy with Biden. That's right. It's both, Blue Gal. Yeah, this is their new employee, brand new MSNBC employee. And just for fun, he also added that we all know Democrats don't want any border security.
Any. The open border lie is the big one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Fox News is facing a defamation lawsuit from former executive director of the Disinformation Governance Board of the United States, Nina Jankowicz, who accuses the network of telling destructive lies that harmed her career and threatened her safety. Jankowicz also alleges in the suit that the board's work was paused as a result of Fox's false statements and the ensuing harassment, and that this continued after her resignation. Over the course of 8 months in 2022, Fox talked about Jankowicz more than 300 times. Mm-hmm. That is in the complaint filed in Delaware on Wednesday. They talked about her so much because her name is unusual and has 3 syllables. Just like Benghazi and Solyndra, they can repeat Jankowicz over and over again, and eventually their audience will connect Jankowicz to evil Democrats, evil, dark, deep state Democrats. It's brainwashing.
Yeah, voluntary.
And then we got to talk about the right-wing group Moms for Liberty, who really are evil, by the way.
Yeah, they really are.
They went after a librarian who planned a Mother's Day lesson that would be sensitive to the fact, quote, that not all students live with a mother, and that would, quote, celebrate those who fill the motherly roles in our lives, those who make our lunches, who kiss away our hurts, and who teach us to fly. Of course, Moms for Liberty considered that trans indoctrination.
Right.
Per Wonkette, Ms. Mickey the librarian planned to read 2 books aloud on the theme. Miriam B. Schiffer's Stella Brings the Family, a tale of a little girl who's worried about her school's Mother's Day party because she has 2 dads, and Ryan T. Higgins' Mother Bruce, which is a goofy story about a grumpy bear whose Uber Eats order goes terribly wrong, and he is sent a bunch of goose eggs that aren't boiled, but instead hatch. And so the goslings treat him, the bear, as their mama. Mm-hmm. So some loving Christian parents in the area sent Ms. Mickey long rambling rants in emails in which they declared her a groomer and a literal enemy of motherhood. But what's worse, as the Tennessee Holler reported, Mickey's superintendent, Justin Robertson, didn't even make a token attempt to defend her and instead apologized and canceled the lesson. No word yet on whether the books have been pulled from the school library.
Yeah. Well, would you like some good news, Blue Gal?
I'd like some good news.
Here in civilization, I have some good library news for you. A bill that would block libraries from receiving state grants if they ban books will soon be sent to Governor J.B. Pritzker, who is expected to sign it. House Bill 2789 is an initiative of Secretary of State Alexi Giannoulias, who we pronounce Alexi Giannoulias.
Alexi Giannoulias.
He's a guy. He used to shoot baskets with Barack Obama, whose office oversees the Illinois State Library and administers several grant programs for public and school libraries. It would require that as a condition for qualifying for those grants, libraries adopt either a written policy prohibiting the practice of banning books or the American Library Association's Library Bill of Rights, which includes a statement that, quote, materials should not be proscribed or removed because of partisan or doctrinal disapproval. Hell yes. Welcome to Illinois. Pot.
Welcome to Illinois. You can get a safe legal abortion here.
You can buy pot too if you want.
We don't ban books.
Yeah, reasonable housing prices, pretty good governor. What do you want? Got pretty good weather. Oh, although you know what they call the month of May in Illinois, Blue Gal.
What?
Because it may be 20, it may be 70, it may be raining, it may be thundering, it may be tornadoes, maybe snow. That's why they call it May.
That's why they call it May in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, each week we post to our Facebook page and website an Internet Kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitty is Princess Cloudburst of Cuddles, whose human is friend of the pod, Zombie Rotten McDonald. Princess Cloudburst is one of many real queens of Internet Kitties. No coronation necessary, and we love her. And of course, Princess Cloudburst of Cuddles eats freshly poured cat food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve pet store perfection or dollar store dreck, your cats will sit on the kitchen floor and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured. Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh my lord, it's freshly poured. And you can visit Her Highness, Princess Cloudburst of Cuddles, at our Facebook page or website. And you can send your Internet Kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, where you can also write to both of us. Feel free to write to us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Go, Postal Unions! Letter on the air unless you say otherwise. Don't forget our gourmet coffee guideline. If you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage for yourself, buy one for us. This is not charity. This is our job, and we love doing this podcast. And I want to say I have heard from several people over the course of doing this podcast since 2010 who think of me as their podcast mom, and for various reasons. And that's all I'm going to say. And I want you to know I'm thinking of you this weekend. I love you guys. And being your podcast mom is just a pleasure. So reaching out to you guys who who you are, and I love you. That's all I have to say.
If I can make a little addition here, I too have heard from a bunch of podcast listeners in the last week, and they're all terribly interested in COBOL.
Yes, they are.
I've gotten more mail about the episode about COBOL,
honestly,
than just about any other subject from nerds who've come out of the woodwork, who are listeners, who are wonderful people, but they never comment, they never say anything, they never utter a peep, they just enjoy, and that's great. But man, COBOL brings all the nerds to my yard. So
it does, and you love that. Don't lie.
I do. It's great. We can talk about JCL. We can talk about
it's your tribe. Your tribe came forward. All you got to do is talk about COBOL on the Tuesday show. That's right. See our website, proleftpod.com, for details on the various ways you can support the show. Our PayPal, Patreon, and postal address information is all there at proleftpod.com. Please share our show on social media. And if you love this podcast, please get someone else to listen to. And thank you for doing that. Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, Blue Gal, the Internet Kitties wish a happy Mother's Day to everyone except those at Moms for Liberty.
Thank you, Driftglass.
You're welcome, Blue Gal. Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
By the way, you're a great mom.
Oh, thank you, Driftglass.
Happy Mother's Day. And
I know
kids are scattered all over the country at this point, but they all are orbiting this house, and they're all still very deeply attached to you. So,
thank you very much.
Love you. Bye.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Let's think about living. Think about living. Let's think about loving. Think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with the switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
A Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2023 DGBG Productions.